So what is happened over the last two sessions was that you have got an understanding of the servlet, why we need to use a servlet. Not a static page only will help us. We need a dynamic page as well. And for that matter, we are going to use a web server, and within which there is a servlet. There is the Java servlet, which will help to service those requests for dynamically presenting the page to the user. The user here is the client, which is the web browser. And in front of the web browser, you are sitting as a user. Correct? Then the next day, what we have learned is how you create a servlet, and then you have created this front end or the presentation layer, the HTML, which is giving a request to a servlet, which is giving a request for a service, and that service is being that request is being serviced by a servlet, which is hosted on a web server, and that web server is exposing a link between the HTML and the servlet. This is called the deployment descriptor. This far we have learned. Now, first of all, today we will start going and understanding while you configure the servlet and this thing, you might encounter one issue. It is not always. It might happen, but if this happens frequently, then you will get confused. You will need to know the way to solve this issue, because these two are very frequent issues which you can find whenever you are working with servlets, whenever you have configured web server over the servlet and this Java doc. So let us go to the presentation, and there you will see that one HTTP servlet. Now we have understood a bit of servlet. HTTP servlet, that is a service or a class or an interface which has been provided by web server, and these two, and this class is exposing or creating on its own. You are not creating two objects, very important objects, request object and a response object. This is given by HTTP servlet. Now, during this configuration, you might happen to have an issue, and that issue can be on the servlet, on the Java build path in Eclipse. And the error you might come across is that you might get an error like Java X servlet HTTP servlet was not found on the Java build path. Now, if it is not finding on the Java build path in the Eclipse, what will happen is there is an error from the compiler. You will not be able to proceed. Why this happens? And this can be a very frequent, and this can be a nightmare to you if you cannot solve it. So in a very initial stage, if you can resolve it, then you are very happy that no, I will not further, whatever I write on the servlet or whatever I do on the JSP servlet, I will not encounter this issue anymore, because I have understood what I have done and where is the issue. So the problem statement is, if you are facing this error after importing an existing Maven project, Maven, we have not yet gone into that. We have just learned, we have started to write or creating a dynamic web project, isn't it? Whenever we have started, after Java SE, we have started creating dynamic web project because we need to do our servlets. And that we have done over Eclipse. Then it means that HTTP servlet is not available in the project's class path. So if this HTTP servlet that is the backbone of your JSP servlet, the servlet being working, the web server is working, that HTTP servlet is the backbone. So I have to be very careful that this error doesn't happen at all. It must be there in the class path. How do you ensure you? The solution is, you would like to understand whether you have included the HTTP servlet into your class path. If you haven't done, then there is a problem. Okay. So what you do, you go to, there are two ways you can solve this problem. Since we have not learned about Maven projects, we will restrict our discussion over on this. Whenever we will see Maven, then we can discuss about this, but not right now, because too much of information can get you confused. So first of all, whenever we have created a project, a dynamic web project, not a Maven project, we will try to right click on that project in the Eclipse editor. We will right click on the project and we will go to properties. You see, properties. How do I I will make the screen a bit bigger. Can you see the screen? You see, there is an option called properties for the project. You go to right click the Devashish JSP Servlet, which is the project, dynamic web project, and then on the properties, this particular screen will be, or the dialog box will be open, the window will be open for you. Okay, you'd straight away, there is a Java build path. I will show you. I will just understand. The problem is with the project facets. The project facet configuration is maybe wrong. So what you have to do, the very simple solution, you have to click at least these three boxes, because these are not important, but at least minimum these three. That is, what is that? The dynamic web module. If you have not checked, or while you were creating the project, if you have missed out on dynamic web module, then here is your option to click it, to check it. And that dynamic web module, it is version 4.0. We have seen that the Servlet, the latest version of the Servlet works on the dynamic web module version 4.0. So you have to mention that. And the Java, whichever Java JDK you have installed, that you have to mention. Of course, that will be there, but most probably maybe you have not included the dynamic web module. That is why it is giving that class path. In this class path, it is not finding that HTTP servlet. For the HTTP servlet to be available, you must include this dynamic web module in the project facets. Will you remember this? But yes, I am giving a bit of time on this, such that you can go through this video, pause over here and check that yes, we have discussed in session number 3, of our sessions, that there is a problem that I'm facing. Now I see that in my class, we have gone through this problem, and the solution is we have to go to the project properties, go to the project facets and check whether we have included the dynamic web module, the Java, the JDK, and the JavaScript. JavaScript, why? Because you are going to compile it. You are going to compile it on the browser, whether it's a Netscape Navigator or your Internet Explorer or Chrome browser. Okay. Or Firefox. So this JavaScript needs to be there on these browsers, and you have included that in your project. And also in the runtime, you might have missed out to include the Tomcat 9 version 9 server as a local host. So if you see that these are all clicked, but this is not clicked, so go there and click it and say apply and close. That will solve your problem. Do you have any questions? Anytime if you see this, there is a very common problem that you are trying to run it, compile it, run it, but your program is not giving it is not running correctly because it is giving an error. The superclass JavaX servlet dot http servlet is not found. So this is the solution. Okay. Another issue. Any questions? Okay.
No, sir.
Sir, hello, sir.
Yes.
This is Indra there, sir.
Indra you, yeah. Indra
yes, sir. Sir, আমার বাবার হচ্ছে, আমার বাবা তো বেড রেস্টে পুরো।
হ্যাঁ, আমি জানি তো।
স্যার ওটার জন্য স্যার আমাকে অ্যাটেন্ডেন্স ম্যান্ডেটরি বলে আমি ঢুকতে হলো আমাকে, কিন্তু স্যার ব্যাপারটা হচ্ছে আমার 12টার সময় আবার আমাকে বাবার আসলে ইন্স্যুরেন্সে কাজ করে, তো বাবার ক্লায়েন্টের সাথে সব আমাকে এখন যেতে হয়, ঠিক আছে?
আচ্ছা,
আমি এই ট্রেনিংটা আমি ভিডিওটা পরে দেখে নিচ্ছি।
নো প্রবলেম ইন্দ্রায়ুত,
স্যার আমি
আই আন্ডারস্ট্যান্ড,
জয়েনটা করতে পারছি না আমি এই টাইমটাতে।
I understand. No issues in that. যদি কোনো কিছু কেউ তোমাকে বলে, ask him to speak to me.
না স্যার, আমি জাস্ট ভিডিওটা পরে আমি দেখছি, এটা এইভাবে আমি করছি।
No problem. Indra, I know you. You are our old guy. So yes, fine. Yes. Not a problem.
এটাই বলতে, মানে আমারও ব্যাপারটা আনপ্রফেশনাল হয়ে যাচ্ছে, মানে মিটিং হচ্ছে প্রত্যেকদিন, আমি জয়েন করতে পারছি না।
ঠিক আছে, অসুবিধা নেই। তুমি বাট যখনই তুমি এগুলো ভিডিওগুলো ফলো করো,
হ্যাঁ স্যার আমি ভিডিওগুলো দেখছি।
অলরেডি তুমি জানো অনেক কিছুই, বাট এগুলো হেল্প করবে টু
হ্যাঁ স্যার খুবই হেল্পফুল স্যার, খুবই, মানে অনেক ডিটেইল পাওয়া যায় ভিডিওগুলো থেকে, নেটে নেই এসব।
আমি অনেকটা ডিটেইলসেই যাই, কারণ ওপর গিয়ে কোনো লাভ হবে না, বিকজ if you do not know the actual tricks of this subject, it will be difficult. ঠিক আছে? No problem.
Okay, sir.
Runa, I think you have joined. Runa, are you finding it interesting? Are you following the videos?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so are you learning something new, or it's already known to you, all this JSP subnet?
New.
Okay, so try to follow, not only follow the video, but you have to work along with the video. That is you stop it, pause it, write your own way, or copy it. Not copy, you cannot copy, you just check the program that is in the video, and you write yourself. Do some playing around with the code that you have written, run it and check the result. That is how you will go into the deeper aspects. You can master the language or master the topic. I want you to not only just to get a job. You do not try, because it is very easy to get a job. It will be easier to get a job once you complete all these sessions. But one thing, if you do not follow it correctly, what will happen is it will be difficult for you to retain the job. For anyone, even for me, if I didn't practice what I have learned, while I will be in a project working for the client, I will be definitely in a sea where people are not going to help me, because it is you only who can help yourself. Okay, but if you have this knowledge after you have practiced, then you will see it's very simple. Any new technology that is given to you, you can pick it up very fast. That is why. Anyway, let's continue. So whenever you will see Maven, you will create a Maven project. Unlike the dynamic web project, you can solve this problem because in the Maven project you will not get the dynamic web module. So what in Maven you have to inject the dependency. We will discuss all these things. How can you inject the dependency? There is Maven repository. How you can use the Maven repository from the net and can include these dependencies. Like your project was missing these dependencies. So if you can include there is a POM file, pom.xml. Okay. POM, I think you might have come across a term called pom.xml, which is a very important file for any Maven type of project. Okay. in Spring also, you will get Spring MVC you can do it with Maven or you can do it with Spring Boot. But anyway, both are the things, both are the architectures. So there you will include the dependency, and one of the dependency is that you are missing this dependency Java X Servlet, and Servlet API you are missing the artifact. That's how. And the version, of course, the version can change, but doesn't matter. You can always go in for that repository and include that in the pom.xml in the dependencies tag. This is a dependency, and this the mastered the tag is the mother tag is dependencies. So all the dependencies will be included under the dependencies tag, and one of the dependencies javax.servlet. Another dependency is javax.servlet.jsp. You have to include the Servlet API, and that Servlet API, not only Servlet API, but javax servlet.jsp API. If you include these two in the Maven project, unlike the dynamic web project, you can resolve this issue. Okay. There is another issue that you can find when you are using web app project. What is happening is you might be saying that there can be an error, runtime error, that how to solve this element has no attached source, and the Java doc could not be found in the attached Java doc. Java doc is a very important part which plays, because that is a guideline, there is a protocol which will help, because this is all happening at the runtime. Not everything, as I told one day in your earlier session, that Java is so nice that to conserve the memory, to preserve the memory, it will not load everything at one time in one go. So dynamically, because it's a dynamic web app project, so it will just call in those APIs or those libraries which are required at the runtime, so the entire thing will not be loaded into the memory. That's why, but whenever you are using that API or that library, maybe you have encountered this error. This element has no attached source, and the Java doc could not found. You can see a Java doc location here. So all these things, it is consulting, it is sort of a guideline. Then only it will go to that particular location, it will pick up that Java doc, and that Java doc is also installed. So all these things are not, if it is not included or exported or ordered, then or imported, exported, and is not into the project, then your project might fail. Sometimes some APIs, some libraries might not work. So how to solve this problem? This is a very frequent issue. This element has no attached, you will get a error. And this, the web, whenever you are working on something on the web, these errors are so, the error messages are so absurd, or it is so confusing that you can have a nightmare. For days, you might be working and you are not going to get a solution. So these two common issues, the solution is easy, but to find out the solution is very difficult if you do not know it earlier. You do not already know it. Okay. How to solve this? When a Java class or interface is hovered over, control click for the detailed declaration that is no Java doc expression. So this is, the compiler is giving a problem, like this element has no attached source or Java doc. So you can go to that particular Java class or interface, hover over it. Hover means you just go to that. Don't click or don't press enter, anything. Just go to that, hover. It is called hover. Like I have gone to this, I am hovered over here. So whenever you see that you hover over, you see there is some control click. You can press a control and click. For a detailed declaration done, there is, so if you want to know about that entire error message, you can get a detailed declaration or the Java code description. Again, this is something of the configuration which you have not done correctly in your, whenever you have created the project. So go to the project, right click on the project, you go to the build path, Java build path. So this properties windows will be opened. Properties windows will be open for you whenever you right click on the project. Go to the Java build path. Once you go to the Java build path, this window is there, or tab or whatever you say, that opens up. You go to configure build path. Okay, under Java build path, there is a configure build path, and you go to order and export. There is a tag. There is a tab, sorry, tag there, order and export. Bring the web libraries, web app libraries to the bottom. Maybe your web app libraries, which was tick, that is good, but it was maybe somewhere after, immediately after GRA system. But the Java, this particular thing needs a build path in a very sequenced manner. That means it cannot go to web app libraries before it has gone to source main Java and access the ER libraries. Then it has gone to all the Tomcat libraries, and then only it will access the web app library. Somewhere it was somewhere in between, not in the very end. So if there were few more libraries, you would have also have to put the web app. Remember to just put the web app. It's a silly solution, but anyway, that is the solution. So you will never get in anywhere. Even if you search the net, it will be very difficult for you to get the correct answer. You will get so many other solutions, but none of the solution will work in your system. The simple solution is, a very silly solution is to put the web app libraries. You can make it, you can just click on, you can just highlight this and say down, 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 down. Or if it was somewhere in here, or maybe the other things, it was somewhere here, other things you want to bring it up. So you can say top, up, other things. Anyway, any which way. But I will prefer that you do not change this order. You just make it down below at the very bottom. Okay, using the down arrow. That is the solution. Then close the project. You have to close the project and reopen it. Whenever it reopens, it actually refreshes the entire Java build path. And also, whenever you are I told you one day that whenever you are installing the Tomcat, the documentation zip has to be downloaded. I think I have mentioned, right? Yes. You see, I have mentioned here that whenever you download Tomcat, okay, you download Apache Tomcat, select 8.464 Windows, go to check the source code distribution zip as well. Download this one as well from the download in the organization, from where you are downloading the Tomcat. If this is not there, there will be a lot of problem. Please remember to download the source code distribution zip. So remember to download Tomcat documentation zip. Fine. So these two are the solutions. Now let us see what we were discussing. Can you see the screen now? We have switched over to the Eclipse Editor. So in that case, what we were discussing, this is the project. Okay, you right click, you go to properties, and then you see you can have a Java build path. Web app libraries. At least it need to be below this ER libraries, Java, there was the project source and the system JRE system libraries. I should have included this as well. But anyway, it is working fine. Because why? You know, I go to Java facets, project facets. Okay. Anywhere, either see, I have included this dynamic web module. It must be the latest version 4.0. Okay. Java 1.8 or whatever. Yeah, I have the JDK 1.8. Yes. And the JavaScript 1.0. So, and in the runtimes, I have already highlighted this. So that's why it was not needed to, because in any one place that will do. So here you do not have, or you can have this as well. Because in Java facets runtime, as I said, that otherwise you will have a lot of problem with the Java, I mean the HTTP servlet. Is it okay? Now, let us come to an understanding. I will now, we will see, we have seen that add servlet, we have learned how we are adding two numbers that we are inputting in the browser. Today, we are going to learn about the get and post method. Get and post method for the same dynamic web content. In this, we have used this. In this, we have used the service, isn't it? Add servlet, we have used the service, which is one of the functions, one of the methods in the HTTP servlet. But here we are going to use, because internally the service actually calls the do get and do post method. We will see that. First of all, index 2. Like you have to create that HTML. We know how you create an HTML file. Okay, that day we have discussed, isn't it? So till the body, and this will be done, only in the body you have to do whatever you want to do. The rest, this entire structure will be given by whenever you create the HTML file from the wizard. So similarly, I have index2.html. What did I do? I said a title of this HTML is that it is form with post. Form with post. In the index1.html, we didn't have any method in the form. By default, any method is, when I don't mention anything, it is method equal to get. When I don't mention. But if I need to do something over post, so I just omit this. I don't need to save it. Here, since I want to mention a method, I am a method post, I am using a method element. So what I'm doing is I have changed the action from add to add post, just to differentiate between the two HTMLs, because there can be several requests at the same time. You must understand, you cannot have one HTML for several requests. One HTML form will expose only one request. So here my form is requesting for something add, but that add is with a post, method post. So in a form, there are two elements. One is the action and the other is the method. That is the HTML part. I'm not going to that HTML part. So add post is the name of the function. That is the function or the service that I'm trying to get from the servlet, some servlet. I'm saying that please input two numbers, one the number one, num1 and num2. And I'm submitting. Once I submit, it will say, when I click on the submit on the browser, it will go to invoke the add post method. It is going to call the add post method. But this add post service is going to be provided by someone. And you know that. Who is that one? He is the servlet. Fine. Now, I have created a servlet called add servlet post. Why I am going to use a post? You know, can anybody tell me why not get? Because you see, anyone in your in this class, anyone? I'm not getting the. Okay, anyone? Aishwarya, Ankit, Arnab, Ashish, Devojyoti, Deep, Jagdish, Kundan, Rajshekhar, Runa. Can anybody tell me why we need to use sometimes, most of the times, post and not? Jagdish, can you mute yourself? Jagdish, can you?
Okay, sir. Wait. Just.
Yeah, fine. If you want to answer this question, my question is, any one of you can tell me why we sometimes need to use, or most of the times need to use method post and not get? Okay, fine. I will not waste any.
Yes.
To send the value.
Post method is the secure.
Yes, secured. Very good. Who said? Kundan?
Yes, sir.
Yes. Secured like what? Yeah, it is security. It is
Actually, URL.
But why? What security?
From the data hack, like this.
Yeah, you are
whatever we write in the form, the data should transfer into the database. So that data should be secured.
no, not database. I'm not talking about the database right now, because we are just using a servlet service to do some processing of the request and getting it on the browser, the HTML. It is in the form of HTML. It is not. We have not touched the database at all at this case. But still, there is a security lack when we are using get, because in the get you expose the entire query string. That is the HTML with the question mark and the entire query string, like whether what is the num. That means you are exposing, if you are sending the username and the password and whatever, say for a login screen. If your login screen, the user can see your login name and password on the URL itself, on the query string itself, is it very secured?
No, sir.
So in that case, you always post the request onto the server. That means whenever you post it, when you use the method post, what happens, that the query string is hidden. That means whatever as the parameters you are passing into the servlet is getting hidden. That means your login name, your username, your password, or your age, or your profile, everything gets hidden. Only the function that you are calling, here you are calling which function? Here you are calling the add post function, right? So that add post is only exposed. And what will a user do with the add post? Because it doesn't know. What is at post? Because that is hidden in your program. But if the user can see your login name, your password, then that is a problem. Because what you know, user can copy your URL and can invoke that service, because it is after all on the browser. Therefore, you can use hide or you can use method post. I will show you what is the difference. Now, so I have created a HTML form with the name as form with post, and I have used a method post, submitted it, and submit means it will call a function add post. Add post will send a request in the web server, which is Tomcat, to help it process that request. And therefore, I have a servlet designed. I have done a servlet that it will help to do the do post method for the service. The service requested is at post. Okay, the service request is at post. What we are doing here is we are trying to differentiate between do get and do post. Anyway, but these are nothing but it is overriding a service called service, overriding a method called service, and this service is the main method in your HTTP servlet. Okay, so what we are doing, we are creating a servlet. How do we create a servlet? We have learned the other day. So there you will say that the object that you are including, it will be javax.servlet.http.http servlet, right? javax servlet.http.http servlet. So here we are, and also we have learned that we are not going to use any serial ID with a long serial ID, and we are suppressing these warnings. So this is a compiler annotation that we understand that we are using this for a serial. We want to serialize it, and we are suppressing the warning for it. We are not going with any serial ID. Fine. Now, I am giving an annotation. You have in Java, we have used annotations. So the similarly annotation is the compiler level annotation. That means we are saying that we are actually going to override the main method of HTTP servlet. What is that? What is that?
Do post.
No. Do post is the two methods which are that library, the documentation is missing with me. So that API jar is missing. So if I had imported a servlet API jar, it would have given me that documentation. I'm missing that documentation here. Fine, doesn't matter. But anyway, we have seen, let me tell you that HTTP servlet is a class. Okay. And it's an abstract class, and it will have a service method. And that service method actually, whenever that day we have just used for add servlet, we have just used the service method, right? See, this service method is just within that HTTP servlet, that class which is extended by add servlet. That add servlet becomes one servlet by extending this one, that we know. And the main service which you are implementing here, because this is an abstract method of that abstract class. The service you are implementing, you are doing something within this block. So that means you are implementing the service. That is a mandatory part. But here we are not using the service. What we are doing? we are doing with a do post. Now, do post is another method. That's why we are saying that we are going to override. We are making the compiler aware that we are going to use either do post or do get, or maybe do post and do get both. Because both of these methods, HTTP Servlet has given a mandate that I can recognize do post and do get, which are part of the service method. So if you implement do post or do code, I'm happy. I will understand that you have implemented or overridden or implemented the service method. I'm happy. So it will allow. So do post, but you cannot say do post, do pause. No, it is not there. Do post. Remember this. Do post and do get. Methods override service method. And who is giving this do post, do get? Who is giving this request object and response object? Is it HTTP Servlet which is giving? No. This request object and response object, this service method, everything, this do get, do post methods are given by web server Tomcat. Tomcat is the main guy here. The web server, any web server, whether it's a Glassfish or IBM WebSphere or JBoss. That is, those web servers are the generators of these objects or these methods. One object is request, one object is the response. Without this request and response, you will not be able to use HTTP Servlet. And therefore, you cannot work on Servlet. Okay. So when I say I'm doing do post, I'm actually saying that I'm overriding the method service. That's fine. So then in HTTP Servlet is very happy. It allows nothing else, no other methods other than do post or do get. Are you okay with this? So what I'm saying that because I have been asked for a service of add post, that I need to add these two numbers. What I do, I have to ask a servlet, and servlet will in turn ask either do get or do post to do that work for you. So here I'm using post, do post. I'm because I have using a method post. Now, public void do post, and I have to pass on these two objects. HTTP, what is the request object? It is nothing but HTTP Servlet request, and the type is HTTP Servlet response. These are two classes or types for creating or having this type of response and request. These are two objects already created for you. You are not creating this object. Did you create this object? No. Okay. Now, similarly, it is very similar that we have explained that you are getting the parameter from the request object. Remember this, from the request object, you are getting the parameter num1. Num1 is this one that you have entered. And also the similar thing you are getting and converting, because these are strings. Num1, num2 are strings. So you have to parse it as an integer and store it as an int. Therefore, you can make an arithmetic operation of I plus j and putting that value in sum. We cannot print it in the console. We know that. So what we are doing is we are trying to use a class called printWriter, and where it creates an object. And here we, from the response, because we are finally going to put this output into onto the browser of the client, so that it has to travel with the response object, that whatever the result is, whatever you do, printing on the screen, on the terminal, on the browser, it has to be carried over by the response object through a function getWriter. So this out object is created, And from that out object, you are printing this onto the browser window. Is that in do post, you are in do post, and the result is this. Any questions? So do you are understanding? So what will happen if I say, okay, let me first run this, only then you will understand. But running this will not, will it help you? How will this index to HTML know, this request know that which servlet I am going to call? Where then you have to go?
Web XML.
Web XML. Very good. Very good. Who said this?
Sir, no.
Arnav, very good. So you are getting a link. That means if I need to service this through a servlet, I need to have a link between this, and that is through Web XML. The other day, I have had an addition. Add function. Today, I am using an add post, because here I'm trying to have a service called add post by the name add post. So I cannot make it. I have to take out this remark entry. This one, and I can put it here. That's why what I have done is I have used one XML, one way. I have to use only one XML only, but I want to display that I have to show you that I can have lots of requests serviced through the servlets, different servlets, but through under only one Web XML. The deployment descriptor is only one, but there are several servlets and there are several requests, HTML pages. So do I need to, if I need to work on this, do I need to remark this or comment this out? Anyone? If I,
Yes, sir. Yes, yes.
You mean to say that if I make it open, that means this function I'm going to call add servlet, but actually I am trying to execute this add servlet post, this one, and I have opened this one, and I have not closed this block. So this will not work.
Sir, I think both will work.
Both will work, correct. Okay. Because this, see, whenever you are executing this, actually I am executing index.html, index2.html. So index2.html is not having add, it is having add post. So whenever it encounters add post, it will go and check in the Web XML that where is add post. Okay, I found add post here. So what is add post? It is addition to the servlet name. So what is addition to servlet name? It is the servlet. It is calling this servlet. Will it go to add servlet? No, because add servlet will be called when you call add function. Is it getting clear?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Any confusion, please? Because this is the fundamental. If you can understand this, that means at least you know how this deployment descriptor works and how it connects the page with the service or the servlet. Any questions? Any confusion? Anyone? Ankit? Ashish? Deep? Deep, you are not asking any questions nowadays? Jagdish? Kundan is good. Kundan has already told me. Rajshekar? Runa, you are not asking any questions? If you are not asking any questions, I will assume that you have understood, right?
Yes, sir.
Very good. So just remember, the servlet and the servlet mapping is very important thing in a deployment descriptor, which is Web XML. So by the servlet, you mention the actual servlet program or the servlet. And by the servlet mapping, you are mapping the servlet with the function or the service. Remember, for the servlet name has to be the same. And this in the entire web XML, you cannot have two servlet names same. This must be unique. So addition cannot be addition 2, or this addition 2 cannot be addition. Then there is a problem. Okay. So I have done some changes. I will save it. I have saved it. Now I go to index.html. What is the next step? What I do?
Start the server.
Yes, I can start the server. This is another way. Very good. I can start the server. So what I do? I go to start. That is another way of working on it. But the thing is, by starting the server, the server is started. Okay, you go to servers, you see the server has started and it is in the synchronized mode. But the thing is, you have started the server, but that web server is started. But the web server is not only a property of this index2.html or this servlet. Only this, because there can be hundreds of servlets on the hosted on the web server. So to run any servlet, you need to have this started. That is the prerequisite. But that is not all. If I go to, I'm not seeing anything. This thing is not working. I mean, I'm not finding that browser with that index2html called. So for that, I have to run this. I have to run this how? By run on server. Okay. Or you can directly go over here. You see run index.html2. Can you see that on the screen?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Yes.
You can just press this. It is a shortcut. Now see, I'm what is that? I am form with post. And form with post is nothing but this particular HTML page. Because I have given a title of this HTML page as form with post. That is exposed. Now here I am running under this root context. Is Devasi Servlet is the root. This is the project, and I have given that project name as the root context when I've created that project. Right? You understand? Index2html. I'm running this, so I'm giving 20, and I'm trying to add 20 with 30. So I am expecting when I press submit query, I'm expecting that it will give me a result by some web server or some servlet which will process this result. And the do post, see, I'm getting a result as on the browser. Somebody has printed something on the browser. That is the print writer has done that in do post, and result is 50. Is it fine? And what you are seeing at post only, are you seeing any question mark? Question mark num1 equal to 20, ampersand num2 equal to 30. Are you seeing this? No. You are not seeing this. This is the query string. This query string is not seen because you have used a post method in the form. What was the form? You see, you are not finding index1.html because now it has gone to the servlet. Servlet has processed this service because after you have now you are seeing index2.html, right? You change the value. You say 34. And once you submit it, you are calling a function within that form. which is at post, and at post goes to the servlet. Servlet processes that the sum and sends it to the browser through a response object, and the response object writes it on the browser with some response, and that response is in do post result is 64, and you see that the value has changed from 50 to 64 because it has invoked the servlet again. The servlet has processed it again. And what was the servlet name? Servlet name was at servlet post, and that has serviced a function from the browser, from the HTML page. This was requested. This was a request. And since the request was through a method post, I am not getting the query string. I do not know what is num1, what is num2. By just knowing at post, the user cannot do anything. But if it sees that your login name, username equal to say Dev, and this thing, the password equal to Dev123. So will that be good?
No.
So the person can go and just copy this one and can go to another browser. Will say, I want to execute this. So the page which was supposed to be opened by you only after login, this person from outside can also go to your login page and do whatever, because you can access the database, you go and do something in the application. The same thing can be done if suppose if it was a banking application and you are transferring some money to some other person, or maybe you are getting some money from one account to the other account. So everything can be done by that person. That is how hacking happens. So you have to be very careful. You do not expose your sensitive data. That's why you use post. That's why you use post. You see, I do not have any query string. Correct. Now, I will close this. Is this clear? Is this clear?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Any questions? No. No?
Can I interrupt you? Hello, sir.
Hello.
Good afternoon, sir.
Afternoon.
Sir, I am Deepak Kumar.
Deepak. Deepak.
Yeah, sir. Tomorrow I also attend the classes 11 o'clock. Okay. But
Deepak,
I cannot.
You are from the new batch, na?
Yeah.
Okay, fine. Okay.
Tomorrow I join this class also. But now today I cannot know starting in 11 o'clock or not. So that's why I am now joined.
But then you are learning and you are in the Java session, na?
Yeah. It's a which session?
This is not the Java session. This is the JSP Servlet session.
Okay. Because I cannot get any type of message. So that's regarding I joining. Yeah.
Oh, no. Yesterday there was a session with you.
Yeah.
But tomorrow there will be a session.
Okay. When you can start with a session, you have to message in this group also. Because I am
You can continue. See, if you have logged in, if you know a bit of JSP Servlet, you can continue. Or just even if you don't understand, just
because of I am a team number of 16.6.
I know.
Because I cannot get any type of message, so that's why I joining here.
No, but
unfortunately,
this message was supposed to be for Java 14 and 15 batches.
Okay.
Batches.
Okay.
So whatever message will be there applicable for you, it will be given to you only.
Okay.
In your group only.
Okay. Or class taking sequentially.
Yeah, correct.
Yes, because I cannot get any type of so that's why. Okay, sir. Thank you. Continue.
Okay, no problem. Thank you. So is this clear? Now, one can ask me, sir, if I use do get. Can I do that? I will not need to change anything. So I say do get. Immediately you will see, that's fine. There is no error. Compiler error, there is nothing compiler error. But let me, I've said, are you getting me what I'm trying to arrive at? I'm saying that I have used do post. Somebody wants to say that, sir, we can use do get as well. I said, yes, I can. Because the service method is overridden by either do get or do post or by both. But here I have specifically used do post. Can I use do get? Let me see. I save it and go to index.html. I say, see, whenever you do some changes on the server, because this servlet is on the deciding on the server, you have changed do post to do get. Some changes you have done and saved it. Immediately, did you see that the server has started? I mean, restarted? Because anything, even if you change the web XML is what? Deployment descriptor. It also resides in where? Web XML will be there in the server. Are you seeing the presentation page?
Yes, sir.
So anything you change on the servlet or web XML, you will see that the server will be restarted. It will be stopped and restarted because the entire thing is hosted on the web server. So web server has also have to change the configuration. Okay. Now let me go to index.html. I'm not changing anything over here. I'm just trying to run it. So I go there. Let me save this. I go there and run index.html. Okay, so I'm running this. I'm saying 30 and 40 and submit query. Are you seeing? What is the error? HTTP method post is not supported by this URL. HTTP method post. So the method post is the main culprit. Why? Because in here you have said method post, but in here in the servlet you are saying do get. It will not work. But will it work if I change this to get? Yes. Yes or no?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes. I have changed it to get, or if I do not give this, but still the default method is get, even if I mention or not mention. Let me run it again. So let me say 30 and 40. So I'm expecting 70. Oh, did I not save? Did I not save it? Oh, I have not saved it.
Yes, sir.
The method post is not supported by this URL. Why it is not refreshing?
Sir, we have to change. Do
Yeah, I
get
have
to-
changed it to do get.
Yes, sir.
Let it be or the post. HTTP method post is not supported by this URL. Somewhere. Anyway, we will see that. I'm sure this should work. Why it is not working? Instead of do post, I'm saying, let me, this will not, actually, this is not causing any problem. I will need to find out why it is not working. It should work. Okay, we proceed. Saying method equal to post only. And save it. And here we say, this is Servlet. I've changed it from do get to service, right? Let's see. So here you are seeing at post only because you have given a method post. Fine. Let's proceed with the other topics. I will get back to you why, what has to be done to make it also work with, like it is working with service. So it should work with do get as well. I will check that and come back. So let us move on with the next topic, which is, yes, this is one of the very important request dispatcher and send redirect. Now, it is not that we are restricting to one servlet. We can call a servlet from a servlet, and from that servlet, we can call another servlet, like chaining of call chaining. So this technology also we need to understand how you pass the requests or the request object from one servlet to the other servlet for further processing. Maybe like in a payroll application, you first of all process the names who has worked, who are not in the leave. Okay, first of all, first servlet will give a list to the management, all the employees who have worked over this month. Okay, and with that list, and also the same servlet can process who were absent or who were on leave for the entire month or maybe partially in this month. So first of all, the servlet is calling another servlet, which is going to process the salary of all the employees who have worked the full month. Maybe one servlet will process that. It will call another servlet who has, for the employees, for the salary processing for employees who were partially present, and another servlet who were fully absent. Maybe I'm just giving an example. So a servlet is calling a servlet, and that servlet can call another servlet. Or from a single servlet, you can call multiple servlets. What are servlets? Servlets is nothing but, like you will know in the microservices on Spring Boot. And microservices are nothing but the servlets. And the Spring Boot is helping you to process. It is also a layer over a web server, which is Tomcat, but it is giving you much more facilities than what a single servlet can do. So if you do not understand servlets and how you pass one servlet to the other, the requests, you will have difficulty in understanding Spring Boot, first of all, as well as you will have difficulty in understanding the microservices. So therefore, let us understand the theory part first. Then after, we will go to this part. That is, we are going to use an HTML for a request of addition. First of all, addition of two numbers, and then that servlet is going to dispatch that sum to another servlet who will do the square of the sum. Are you getting me? So this servlet is going to sum it, whatever has been supplied, say num1, num2, num3, num4, whatever. It will get a sum. And then it will ask another service from another servlet to make a square of the sum. It's a very simple. It is not for that simple matter of just making a square. You could have done it over here only. But just to explain that or to see the technology, how you do that. That's why I am just using that one servlet will do the sum, another servlet will do the square. Okay. And finally, we'll get the result on the browser. But to understand that, let me take you through the notes, page 8 and page 9 of the. You must understand how you do this. So page 8 says, okay, here, HTTP hypertext transfer protocol, you already know that. Now these have there are actually 7 methods within this HTTP protocol. This is a protocol. This is the standard. How you transfer the data. Basically, it's everything is a data. But how you send a request, how you post that request, how you update that request, how do you delete a request. These are, and also you have the options of the request. So there are 7 methods, out of which we normally in the HTTP protocol, we use the 5 methods: get, post, put, delete, options. Now, these are the 5 methods you will frequently use whenever you are going to use Postman. Let's say you have developed something on Spring Boot, but Spring Boot is only in the backend, and you do not want to use JSP. So you want to use only some front end that you want to process the request, you want to fetch the data and from the database, but not through a design page, either from a JSP or a Bootstrap or anything. Not through that. Simple, because you want to test the Spring Boot development, whatever you have done. So you can use Postman. That is a very beautiful software, which it is giving you a interface such that you can test your functionality, what you have developed in your Spring Boot. So there you will see get, post, put, delete methods. Post is a preferred method over get, as in get the browser displays the query string. We have learned that, whereas post is only the URL. This is good for security. Then we come to the actual. Can you see the screen now? Everyone, can you see the screen?
Yes, sir.
Yes. Now there is a request dispatcher and there is a send redirect. If you can just concentrate a bit, I know it's very difficult to concentrate just prior to Diwali on these very boring topics, but anyway, I will request you to just give me a few more time. Here, just we try to understand the request dispatcher and the send redirect. Both the function is the same. They are trying to send the request from one servlet to the other servlet. We have a client, we have a browser or a client. Browser or the client is sending a request, and the request goes down to this server or the host. This is a server, one single server. There are 2 servlets on the same server. There are 2 servlets. Let the server is say PCSglobal.com. That server name is PCS Global. That host is PCSglobal.com. There are 2 hosted, and there is definitely there is a web server. The Tomcat is installed over here. And over the Tomcat, you have 2 servlets, one S1 servlet and the other one S2 servlet. My request 1 is flowing, it is getting into servlet 1. There is some request that some function, add function or add post, whatever, that function will be serviced by servlet 1 or S1. Then after it has done this, there is a requirement that this servlet will call this servlet, because there is some functionality which will be serviced only by this. This server or this servlet is dedicated for that service. That service is not available over servlet 1. Okay, there is a complicated logic that has to be separated out. So you have created 2 servlets. One servlet does one bit of processing logic. The other one does the other bit of processing logic. You could have done it in the same servlet, but just to segregate out, to separate out 2 different functionality into 2 different servlets, you have done this. That is a design pattern. Now that request 1, after it has processed and it has found the result, it is passing a result of x equal to 5 into the entire object flows. the request one and response one, because both are the HTTP servlet requests and response. So both are flowing down into, it is forwarding. This request is being forwarded to another servlet called S2. What it does, S1 use a RD, request dispatcher object, and that object has a function called forward, and it is forwarding the request one and response one into servlet 2. And that request dispatcher is nothing but an object. Are you getting me? Is that any question? So remember RD. RD is the object. The full form is request dispatcher, which we are going to create. So request dispatcher will forward, this is a function, both the request and the response, with the request has been processed, and that request one flows down to servlet 2. This is happening when there is one single server and you have multiple servlets where you are passing on from one servlet to the other servlet in the same server. But what about that S1 is in one server and S2 is it in another server? Let's say the first server is PCSglobal.com and the second server is PayPal. That means some payment processing is happening after something has been processed. Let's say one student has come and enrolled. So server 1 will do the processing of the student, that is admission of the student. Now the student is paying some money to PCSglobal.com, but PCSglobal.com will request a PayPal or some other payment broker who will process that payment for PCS Global and can produce a receipt. That means that PCS Global will take the help of some payment gateway to do the processing of the payment which has been done by the student. So that one, there are two servlets. One, each of them are in separate servers. This is the vendor server. This is the PCS Global server. Are you getting me? But still, the application needs to send the whatever the process request from one servlet to the other servlet. Will my request dispatcher do in this scenario? No. The request dispatcher cannot do whenever the servlets are being hosted in two different servers. This will fail. What will happen is we have to use a send redirect object. What it does, it's a two-way process. First of all, the browser or the client makes a request one to S1 servlet. Servlet processes that request of X. Let's say X is the request parameter. It processes it and sends the response. See here, the response came back after the entire thing has been processed, and then it finally comes back to the browser as the final result of that processing. Okay, here what is happening is, here the request flows in, gets processed over by the servlet, then the response comes back. It doesn't go here. It comes back to the client. And then client, that means this function, this send redirect, again what it does, it doesn't process anything. Browser doesn't process anything. It will just have a path, like the request goes here, processing done over the servlet. Servlet sends a response back to the browser. Browser then redirects it through a request to. Now the request one has changed to request 2. A new request will be sent to servlet because these two are different servers. So request 2 will go here. will process the same X parameter which was processed earlier and do the processing over here and send the response to back to the client. So this is the final result, but it is having a two leg. You can say two legs: request response, request response. And this happens whenever you need to, that is through the session management. It is having a session, the same session, the browser will initiate the session, and that session will be maintained over entire atomic process till the the response to does not arrive on the client. Session will be kept on hold. Okay. Here also you can do it over the session. You can use a session management over, even if it is in the same server. But same server doesn't matter. You have to still hold the entire request till you get the response back to the client. Any questions? Was it clear, this diagram and what is happening?
Yes, sir.
Now, once we understand the theory, we will try to see the practical part of it. By the way, I assume that you have already started using the Eclipse Tomcat server, and you have started doing at least one servlet. The session 2, at least you have already, we have given the video 2. So do not waste your time. Immediately start. Wherever you get stuck, please let me know, or let me know in the group. I will check the groups. So any technical problem that you are facing while you are trying to work on your own, yes, of course, you are taking the help of the video, but doesn't matter. You can still get stuck. So if you do, please revert back to me. Is that okay?
Okay, sir.
If you do not practice it, you will not understand yourself. However hard I try to explain you, the concepts will be clear, but you start writing it, you will fail. There are so many, because in web, like I got stuck. I though had a concept that do get and do post will still work, but do get was not working. Did you see that I was encountering an error? It's very difficult to, if you get something error, even if your concept is clear, unless you try to do it yourself, you will not get why it is not working. Why it is not working. Okay. Let me come back to the practical part of it. To understand that, let us see that we will have to use index 3. Let's say we are going to index 3. What is then? The same thing, you are creating an index 3 HTML that will be stored under web INF. Okay. And so whatever you have, HTML or JSP or your CSS, or another thing is what? XML. Everything will be under web INF. Similarly, here I am saying the title I have given is calling servlet with request dispatcher. I'm not using send redirect right now. Just first I have to see how request dispatcher works. Okay. Let me have some water. And I'm just giving a comment that the servlet to servlet call example. Okay. Form action, the action remains the same. I've given just the name of the function are different, because I'm going to use web XML for this segment of the function. Add square and that square request ID. Sorry. So add and square through request ID, request dispatcher, RD. And the method, what I'm using is get. Okay. I enter the first number and second number and submit. It's simple, very simple form. Now, I go to add and square request dispatcher.java, which is a servlet. Similarly, I have created a servlet and I've given a comment like, say, it is saying request dispatcher servlet. You do not need to understand. It's simple. Now, these are whatever, whenever you create this, because you have mentioned that you want to create this servlet under com.pcs package, PCS global. So that com.pcs global is the package. And whatever during your writing of this, whatever, whenever you see that it will be automatically, not automatically, you say Control-Shift-O. Control-Shift-O, it will import the relevant classes. I have created a class, servlet class called add square request dispatcher, which has extended HTTP servlet like the same thing. Override, just I have to override. Yeah, here I'm using do get. If this works, why that is not working? Okay, here I have given throws IO exception and servlet exception. You can also give that. Or there is a way that you can automatically do that whenever you are creating this servlet. So you want to include those exception handling automatically. So you can use throws IO exception and servlet exception. What I'm doing, I'm similarly getting the parameter num1, num2, putting it in I and j. Sum, I'm making a sum. This is the function of the servlet. This is the Java function. I'm doing that. Very simple. Now, let's call another servlet square servlet. I have given a name as square servlet. Sorry. Square servlet. From this servlet for the squaring function, square function, there are two methods to call servlet. One is the request. Oh, you already know that. One is the request dispatcher and the other one is the redirect, send redirect. Redirect request dispatcher. It's an interface, so it will be use the request object for specifying the servlet. Okay, fine. Now, what we are doing is we are trying to dispatch the value of the sum to the called servlet. Called servlet is the square servlet for squaring of the function. Now, we can do that by several methods, several processes. One is through the session management. Other and a very easier method is using the setting the attribute to the request object. Here we are going to use, because we have not learned about the session. We will do that in the following sessions. Session management, we will take it separately. Here we are directly just sending the request object, packing it with the request object. So this is the attribute method. What we are doing, we have the request object here, the request, and it's having a function called set attribute. What we are doing is we are giving a name to that attribute as sum, which is the key, and the value is what? Value is the sum. So set attribute. So you can say request. It's an object given by the Tomcat, by the web server through the HTTP servlet. Yeah, HTTP servlet request. So this is a request object, and I'm saying that I want to set the object, request object. I'm saying set attribute. You see, set attribute, string name, object O. That is the key. String name is the key. And what is the object? Object is nothing but the value that you have calculated as sum. Now it can pass an object only. So even if it's a variable, now it will be, since it is on the web and it is being handled as a request object. So this is something to do with the response. So this is a response object, but anyway, it's an object. It's an object. It's not an ordinary variable, and you are packing this object through a key and through set attribute function. So when I say request dot set attribute, I just click on this. And what is the servlet name? Here, don't get confused with that servlet name and this and that. It is just, remember, you have to give the key name. What is the key? You can give anything. Summation. And what is the result or the response object? Response object is nothing that the sum, that is what you have calculated, right? That is the object. You have to give the correct name. Here, the key can be anything. So understood? It is giving an error because I have not given a semicolon. So are you getting me?
Yes, sir.
So I have set the sum. I'm packing with the, because after all, the request object can be passed. A response object can be passed because they are objects. So I'm treating this sum, which was the result of this calculation done by this servlet, and I'm trying to pass it over with the request object. I'm packing it. Like request is a box. I'm putting the sum as an object, let's say presentation, within that box request, and packing it up such that this can be packed through the network. It goes to the, because I'm going to call a servlet. Is it clear? Now, as I said, that request dispatcher is a class. I'm creating an object RD through the request object. Request dot get request dispatcher. What I'm trying to do, I'm trying to get the name of the URL, because through the URL only I will call the square servlet. So where is this square? Why is square? This is not the same name as this square servlet. No, you do not mention the name of the servlet here. Where do you mention the name of the servlet? Where do you mention the name of the servlet? How will this know, request object know that I'm trying to get the square? See that this is nothing but the URL. This is nothing but the URL. URL means a slash and the URL name. That URL you are trying to map in the web XML. Just try to understand the entire thing. Now this servlet is called the okay. Just to be specific, let me remark these two, because we have already run this. It is working. Now we are going to work on this servlet. So here I'm going to put in the remark, the comment. So we are concerned with this block. You see, I have mentioned two servlets, isn't it? There should be two servlets. One is the add sequence request dispatcher servlet, and the other one is the square servlet, right? Do you agree?
Yes, sir.
Yes. So if let's do the function for the first servlet. What is the function requested here in the index3.html? It is add square RD, right? So I have to mention somewhere that this add square ID is a URL for the servlet name as add square, and add square, I know that add square, this servlet is asking, or it is referring to a servlet class called add square request dispatcher. This same, you have to give the correct name. So this is one servlet and the servlet mapping. Another servlet is square servlet, right? So I have to see that, okay, yes, I found it. Square servlet. Yes, this is the servlet. And what I have given the servlet name as square. You can give any name. I have given SQ. But remember, it has to be, it cannot be, it has to be unique. That's all. And this is the URL. Do you understand now? Can you relate it? See that index3.html is referring to add square RD function, and this servlet adds square request dispatcher is referring to this square. It is calling this URL square. I will save this. So this square is nothing but it is a URL referring to a servlet called square servlet. So indirectly, when I say that request object, please get me a function, get a request dispatcher by the name square, by the URL square. So this square will refer to square servlet through the web XML, because web XML is very important part to join between the HTML pages and the servlets, and the servlets with the servlets. I hope you get it. So first of all, what you do, you process it through the do get with the request object, sorry. So the request get parameter. Then after you have got the processing, you set the attribute, which is the sum. Sum is the attribute through the key. Now this sum, why I have given a sum? Okay, let me give something else so that you differentiate. Let's say summation. I will give summation. Okay. Remember, this is the key. When you set attribute for the request, you are packing with the request. This is the key, and this key refers to the actual object, actual value, actual response object. Because this response was supposed to be in the same, I could do the square over here and can send that response to the browser like you have done earlier. But I am creating this within the request, putting that in the request, and then using a RD object, which is request dispatcher, and I'm calling a square servlet. So I have a URL. I am getting, so this request object is having a request dispatcher, get the request dispatcher name. So that name is square. That URL is square. Now, after I have done that, what I will do, I have seen that object I have created with the request dispatcher and dispatching to another servlet called square. I will just forward it. Like you see the thing. It is using a forward, isn't it? You created this object and then forwarding this to the other servlet, correct? Yes or no?
Yes, sir.
And this, because this is an IO, it is going through a network and reaching that another
sir,
servlet. So
what is their print stack trace?
print stack trace is a part of that. We have already learned in the Java, right? These are try catch. And that E is, you are catching this either servlet exception or IO exception, whatever. It can be a servlet exception or IO exception. These are the exceptions. And that is the whatever exception that will be held into this variable or object, whatever you say. That object print, I am not giving my, I am not saying system out.println or system.err.println and giving my customized message and printing this E. But I want that entire whatever there within that, whatever the Java gives me or the servlet gives me, the error exception, the entire will be given to me. Because I am not sure, because whenever you are handling web something, you are not very sure what type of error it can come and what should be the appropriate message for that error. So leave it on the Java servlet. Let it give me all the messages such that it will be easier for you to debug. But if you customize your message, then you are an expert. You know that, okay, only this type of errors can happen. But let's say I am not an expert. Let the expert, which is the Java servlet, Java give all the relevant error which has happened actually. I do not know, because it is very difficult on a web. Whenever you are doing a web application, it is unpredictable behaviors. What will happen when? There can be so many errors. So why to take that responsibility? Okay. The E will give you the error message correctly, but the message that you print might not match with what actually. So you will be, you will have to again modify that code. So better leave it on this thing. Did I answer your question?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now my main thing, this is the try catch which we have already done in the Java sessions. Concentrate on this thing. What we are doing here, we are trying to encapsulate this this activity within the try catch, but such that there should not be any error, because this request will forward, or this response will be going over through a network, between the two servlets. So better be very careful. Try to, you can use this IO exception, servlet exception. In that case, you might not do this as well. But why you are doing this? Because if you do not do yourself, then you will not proceed. Even if there is an error, it will still proceed to the next. It will go to the other servlet. But if you do not give this try catch, if there is any exception, what will happen? Even if you have throws IO exception, the program will terminate over here only. That is not an expected behavior. Okay, always try to have a good practice. Anyway, so RD, that object now forwards the request as well as the response to whom? Because it knows now that it is sending that request or the response, and the response to the URL square. And it will consult the web XML. Web XML tells me, okay, this square, when you say that you are trying to dispatch to a square URL, the square URL is nothing but a square subnet. So let us go to square subnet. Let's see what is happening here. Oh, I'm just running out of time, but just give me 5 minutes. Okay, we will see the program and execute this. The square sublet is another servlet, like the way you have created servlet. Here also we are using a do get and HTTP servlet request, or the same thing. What you are doing is you are, see where is the sum? Now will the sum do? What is the key value? What is the key? Was it sum or was it
Sum?
Very good. That's the utility. You understand. This is nothing but a key. That key refers to the actual parameter, actual object, which is the value. So it's a key value pair. But here, programmatically, get attribute cannot do anything with sum. It cannot directly take sum. You see immediately, because this sum is packaged within the request. So it will be referred only. See, there is a error. Sum cannot be resolved. It is assuming that this is a variable. But did you declare the variable anywhere here? Because this variable is nothing but an object coming from this servlet. So you have to refer that with a key. And the key you have declared earlier is the summation. Summation will always refer to actually this object. So fine. So you get that value, put it into result. And this is, since again the value, because it is traveling. Now, internally, you have to convert typecast into integer. Because it is what? What is the type of that? What is the type of sum?
String.
Huh?
Strings.
No. That's why I asked this question.
Object.
These are yes, this is an object. It is no longer a string.
Yes, yes.
Correct. Now you understand what is the difference between a string and an object. So whenever you are doing something on the web, be very careful. You have processed something which was a string earlier. Num1, num2 was a string. It was converted to integer. Then integer, till that it was fine, int or string. It was not an object. But once you have given it to servlet processed on it, it has created, it can process an object only. So from that onwards, that point onwards, everything is an object. Because HTML is on the browser end, client end. Just remember these things. On the client, whatever you enter, you get the input num1, num2. It is all in string. So in string, after that, it will pass into the servlet as an integer, but then servlet will treat that as an object. And from that point onwards, till the response, because it will be packed into the response and displayed onto the browser, that is an object. Entire thing is an object. That's why you use print writer, not system.out.println. Correct?
Yes, sir.
Summation, and so that sum gets into result. Now, since I do not know session, since I do not know cookie, I'm not discussing this right now. What I'm doing is I'm just processing it. What I'm saying, that result that I've got, I'm saying I want to do the square of the sum. So result equal to result into this thing. Or you could have used a function pow. You can do that, math function pow. But why to complicate things? It's just simple thing. Result into result is a square. Again, print writer. See, I have done a mistake here. I should always use, even if I have done throws IO exception, I should always encapsulate all this part, because this is an IO, or there can be a servlet error. I have to do with a try catch block. Anyway, I've not given it. But you must do it. What I'm doing is I'm creating this object out like the other time, and finally I am giving this as a response onto the browser. I'm getting back the response. So that response comes back into the browser. So this one, this path. So this was the sum, this was the square. Okay. And the result finally comes to the browser as what? As an object called result. And that object is carried by the response object to the browser. Is the entire process clear?
Yes, sir.
Let me, if that is sure, you have also understood that you have created two servlets, and therefore you have to map the servlet with the servlet mapping separately. You cannot do it in the one servlet and you have got two mapping. No, don't do that. You have to, it will not be acceptable. You have to have a servlet and servlet mapping. These are the pairs. Servlet, servlet, servlet mapping, servlet mapping. If you understand this, let me run this. So simple thing, I will just go to run and then run the server. Okay, let me again do the, now I'm taking small numbers like 5 and 6. So 5 into 6 is, 5 plus 6 is 11. So I should get a square of 11 is what? 121.
121.
Yeah. So see, I have gone to index 3. I'm not executing anything else. So submit query, I do. Yes, I got. Now I got because I have used the do get. I've exposed the query string. That is what I was saying. But do you see that one beautiful thing is happening? It is add square d. That function has these two numbers, 5 and 6, and that add square d in turn has asked for the servlet square. But that it is not saying square. It is not saying square because square doesn't have any existence. Because what was initiated? It was initiated by add square rd. And of course you have this because you are using do get. Num equal to what? 5 ampersand num2 equal to what? 6. As many times you run this, and now if you change it to, see the beauty of this. If you change it to 6, what are you expecting? 144. 6 plus 6, what is that? So that is the beauty as at the same time danger, because now you have directly without going through the entire you are not inputting anything. You are just inputting over in the query string. That is the danger that you can directly access. So you should hide this query parameters. Okay, query string. So we will do next session. We will do it with post and progress. Then we will see the send redirect. Are you okay with this, whatever you have learned today?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Is it interesting? I mean, now you can communicate between two servlets. You can communicate between the HTML, the client, the server, and within the server you can communicate between different servlets. And you see how this control thing controls the entire communication through the web XML, the deployment descriptor. So in interview, whenever they will ask anything, now since your concept, your visualization is entirely clear, you can clearly visualize what is happening in the background, you can code, you can answer any question. Correct?
Yes, sir.
See, here doGet was working very fine. I don't know why it was not working, but I will try to find out. Here it is doGet. So I can use the do post as well, but then I have to, what I have to do? I have to change this to post. So I will stopping the sharing. Who are there? Arnab, Ashish, Deep, Aishwarya, Runa, Rashikar, Kundan, Jagdish. Very good. Any questions? So I can stop the recording over here.